optimized to the extreme, Coach Mike McCarthy.
Hey, Coach.
Good to be back.
What the hell's going
What
on?
happened over there, Coach?
What the hell's going on? I mean, things started spinning. I think we went to the internet till 1 o'clock.
I think you got we're on the internet now, Coach. Don't worry about the fine. You disappeared on us. You know that.
I know. Yeah, I don't know what happened. So where were we? I gave you the pick and everything, so I guess it's an automatic win. Or...
No, we didn't hear it. We missed that. We'll get back to that at the end. We're talking about
I'm taking a winning team.
No. We'll make sure you clarify that later. Okay. We were talking about Darnell Mount Washington over there in Pittsburgh. And obviously, you know him coming out of Georgia. I assume you guys scouted and did the entire thing through the draft. National champion there, very successful there behind Brock Bowers. He's starting to become like a focal point for the Steelers offense because I think they can disguise him as a protection guy, and then he can leak out at any given moment. And when he has the ball in his hands, he's untackleable. Big man with the ball who can move. Sound like a treat for a play caller or a play designer, I would assume, Coach?
No, absolutely. I thought I was sitting here listening to you talk about him before, and you asked a question. I thought you made some great points, particularly even in pass protection, that to have a Y on the line, tight end that big that, also can chip from that position, also fully remove, a great pass rusher to a wider gap, a wider alignment. I think there's so many little things that you can utilize too. And the Steelers have history. If you go back, was it to the 70s, the Larry Brown moved from tight end to left tackle and had a great career there in Pittsburgh. But no, it's he was definitely a unique talent coming out of Georgia. I think that, the medical was the only question you had on him, but it's great to see him having success because, the on the line wide tight ends that can play, at that position and be dominant as a run blocker. I mean, that's something that it really solves a lot of schematic challenges too, because you're always trying to move tight ends, more movement tight ends, and put them in position to block a defensive end. So when you have a tight end that can block a defensive end on the line of scrimmage, I've always felt that's a huge advantage because, the first thing you talk about in your run game meetings is how do you win the C gap? The C gap is where the front is connected to the second level of the defense. So that C gap blocking area is a very important area to target of how you're going to, whether expand it in a zone scheme, knock it down or, cut the defense in a pattern scheme. And when you got a guy that, that can do it right there on the line of scrimmage at 311 or whatever he is, that's a huge advantage in the run game. Also the pass protection. Because of the chipping and helping on these great pass rushers, which seems like everybody has three of them. And then obviously what he's doing in the pass game, like AJ said, no one wants to tackle him. So, no, I think he's a huge weapon. And I think Tone said they're using him, a lot more, and rightfully so.
Yeah, hey, I like that. Listen to your recall there real quick. I was picking up some stats you guys are dropping that I didn't necessarily have, but I think you're saying he's playing more. Nobody wants to tackle him. Yeah, I think that is all accurate. I agree with your assessment. If you were to get back into coaching, which sports books are obviously putting you as a favorite at some different places, so congratulations.
Oh, yeah, Coach.
If you want to get back into coaching, people are saying, hey, looks like this guy could do it, which is good news. And we would certainly echo that particular sentiment. Are you looking for a 300-plus pounder that can catch the ball and move a little bit, maybe for your next offense?
No, absolutely. No doubt. I just think, you look at the trends in the league, it's something I've always, paid attention to. When I arrived in Dallas, it was an offense that was entrenched in more of 11 personnel as a starting point. I've always believed the game starts, with a 2 tight end, 12 and 21, and migrate, to the 13 personnel and the 11, obviously, with the 3 wide receiver sets. I just think there's such value in being a multiple personnel offense because, with that, with the injury challenges that you have, and as a coach when you're playing your 4th, 5th, maybe 6th, receiver over your 2nd or 3rd tight end, that where you're not utilizing your weapons as well as you can too. So yeah, definitely. I think it's a big man's game. It always has been, always will be, and to have that type of player on the line of scrimmage, it gives you the ability to get in and out of 1-back, 2-back concepts very easily.
Yeah, Coach, obviously next week's Thanksgiving. We know this is when the season truly starts, I think. A lot of the great teams, this is when they really come alive and start playing their best ball. I guess as a coach, what do you do when it comes to this point in the season? We know with padded practices, you could have one a week, and now I think you might not even at some point you can't have any more padded practices really towards the end of the season. What do you do to keep your team ready, I guess, to actually make them and help them ramp up to where these games actually matter? And this is we can go try to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think every year as a head coach, sets out that, the schedule for the season. You try to project as best you can through all 18 weeks. And with that, the first thing I always looked at the schedule is because people are always so caught up in, who you play. It's really not who you play, it's when you play them. But I think the most important component of scheduling and regulating your football team is when you get in how many seven-day runs do you have as a football team? How many seven-day sequences you have? Because that's where the continuity, the regularity, the efficiency, the connection really happens. I'm a big believer in the padded practices on Thursday, not only just to get the players ready to play in the game that Sunday, but you're always developing the younger part of your football team. Some people don't believe in 9-on-7 drills and things like that. I think they're a must, not only, once again, not for the older guys, more as much so for the younger guys. So especially with the state of the league with the offensive line, how do you continue to develop offensive line, into the season? You got to approach it coming out of the gate that way because ideally you like your younger players not to play till potentially, November, December, because, I definitely, my history, I believe that they're definitely ready. They're ready to play and contribute by then because they're able to get into that, the regulation of a normal season. So, and that's tough. When you're a popular team, I mean, if you play for the Packers, you play for the Cowboys, you got a lot of Sunday night, you got a lot of late night games and so forth. So the rest and recovery becomes a challenge. But those 7-day windows are important. And the reason why I'm making a big deal of it, because now I always felt, when you get to Thanksgiving, that's when now you go into a different shift. And, AJ and our time together, the winter schedule. So, you come into a winter schedule, and I used to try to take 60 minutes off the day on Wednesday and Thursdays, especially living up here in Green Bay. I mean, you go to work, it's dark, and, and the players come out to, get to go home and it's dark. So how do you those are all things you think about, part of the recovery and so forth. You get into this winter schedule and then you got 13 padded practices. So you got to filter them in on the short week and, because they're vital. I mean, it's, you have to play the game in pads, and I think you need to definitely practice in pads once a week. So I just think the scheduling kind of shifts after this week. And this was a week that I always targeted because I always felt this is probably the last week that I could really, keep my foot on the gas as far as trying to push the players, because you do really got to look at the wear and tear of your football team, throughout the season. But this is where, where it comes down to, because you got to make that push in November and make, you want to be playing your best football in December. So I always thought this was a big week for teams as far as their overall development. And I think it tells you a lot about your team, where you are when you get to this point. And I'm not talking about the guys that are lining up on Sunday. I'm talking about all 68 players, all the way through your practice squad.
Have you thought about this at all?
It's this is what I do, Pat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, you just gave so much good shit there. There are so many different things, like, for me to want to dive into more to learn about. One of them, though, you talk about needing to have pads. Thursday was your day. You got 13 of them. We got to slot them in. Is that full pads, or are you a shells? Are you a shells guy? What was your
full pads? I think it's full pads. AJ used to try to get away with and put the sweatpants over there.
Put sweatpants on, yeah, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach would come. They come knock on your. They'd knock on your legs if you're wearing sweatpants. It's negative 30 out, and people, I just want my sweatpants. He won't know if I don't have my pants on. Nope, they get you right away.
Oh, we need to see the pants. You are a. The pants need to be on, Coach.
It's the details, Pat. Yeah. So that's one of them. Yes. I just think it, But
I would have those sweats on.
I think you got to practice your team the right way, and I don't think it's too much to ask your football team to wear all the pads on a Thursday.
Go Hawk.
Yeah, it's true.
All right.
Coach, hey, he did say one time, Coach said, if I lose somebody with a thigh bruise on a Thursday, I'm going to lose it. I said, Coach, if I sit out a game with a thigh bruise, you can cut me on the spot. I'm just letting you know. But I did wear my pants.
It is crazy, though, because the pants are just like Spanx these days. They're like tights. Basically, you're just kind of putting
different
them on.
mentality, though. There is like a different mentality or feel when you have your pants on. It's just different.
Everybody thinks it, too. It's not like putting the shoulder pads on. Me, like punter, even like, let's do this whole thing, obviously. Putting those pants on, it's everybody in there is like, just stomping. Let's put these things on, I guess. All right. Sick. Let's go have a full pad practice today. And the coaches are like, You're a football player.
Yeah, football season.
Put on your football pants.
Your uniform?
Chris Angel wears football pants whenever he's dangling from an NFL stadium. You can wear football pants whenever the hell you're doing football practice. I love that, Coach.
Kansas City Chiefs have won 10-plus games in 10 straight seasons, which is insane. 9 division titles in a row. And now they are sitting 5-5, which would be the 9 seed right now for the playoffs. And they have a Colts team who is one of the best records in the NFL coming in off of a bye. Is this, I hate saying this, I hate this term, but is this a must win for the Chiefs this weekend to not go from 5 to 6, potentially drop to the 10 seed in the AFC?
Third best odds to win the Super Bowl still.
And yes, they still have the third best odds to win the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on the Chiefs overall in this game this weekend against the Colts?
I'm a big believer that sustained success in the league is clearly the hardest thing to accomplish. And, what the Chiefs and Andy Reid and that group has done is spectacular. With that, I don't think you could ever count them out. I think you look at the length of the season, this is a time of year they're very comfortable in. Their experience of playing in big games, must win type games, who has more experience than them. And that's where I just think, going back to, we were talking about scheduling, before, is this is the time of year you just got to keep your head down. And the old adage of just keep chopping wood. When people are talking about winning a Super Bowl in week 3, 4, 8, 9, to me, it's just, you're wasting time and energy, because, that's a conversation for the preseason. Everybody has their time that you talk about the goals for the year. And I would hope all 32 teams are talking about winning the Super Bowl, but this time of year, and I point to AJ again. I used to just tell our guys, until we get to 10 wins, let's just keep our head down and keep working on who's in front of us. And you only have so much time and energy each week to prepare for your opponent. And I think Andy, whatever his formula of work and the way they grind and so forth, speaks for itself. So I would not count those guys out. But yeah, it's getting late. I mean, they have 5 losses, as you stated, but I think they obviously done a great job with their record of sustained success. They know how to just keep their head down and keep grinding. And because really, when you get to 10 wins, that's the only time you start looking around. I understand they may be the 10th seed, but who's trying to win week 12? I mean, it's about being right where you need to be in the end. And the best mindset is just keep it about what's in front of you. So, and I think they've obviously done that as well as anybody's done it in the history of our game.
I love that you said they got 5 losses, of course. Quick math, 17 minus 5 is what? They still have 12 wins. And we all understand that they have Patrick Mahomes, 12 more than 10, which he was indicating a couple different times there about how he treated the building. Going to have 10 wins in most cases, unless your division is completely ass and you win your division somehow with less than 10. Yeah. Going to have 10 wins to make the playoffs just in the NFL. It was like that, I think, with 16 games, still like that with 17 games at the desired position. Yeah. Is that accurate or no?
10 or 11 probably, Pat, right?
Yeah.
10 or 11.
Depending on the year, I think. Depending on how the top of the thing's doing.
Yeah, I think 4 teams in the history of football have missed the playoffs with 11 wins. I only know that because Matt Castle, New England. But yeah, typically it's 11 or 10.
11 game, just to have a chance, though, you got to get to 10. So all these teams, we were just talking to Kirk Herbstreit about Joey Burrow's mindset. He's like, all right, we can still get to 10 wins here.
Yeah.
So, there's a chance we still sneak in an AFC that could have a lot of questions.
Last year, there was one 10-win team that did not make the playoffs. That was the Seattle Seahawks at 10-7 last year.
There's been a lot of chatter about J.J. McCarthy and, his alter ego, 9, and people basically saying, well, 9 sucks. We need J.J. McCarthy. And there's also been people saying, hey, you don't really want your quarterback to have an alter ego. You kind of want that guy to maybe be the same person at all times. But in terms of development and all that kind of stuff, because we do have a lot of young QBs in the league right now who are making starts under immense pressure, and it's kind of one of those things where you want to develop them, but at the same time, they need to win these games. You got Caleb, J.J. McCarthy, they're not out of it yet. Drake May with the Patriots, Bo Nix. A lot of these guys are still young quarterbacks. But as a coach, how do you go in knowing, hey, I still need to develop this guy, at the same time understanding that come Sunday, he's going to have a start under an immense amount of pressure in a game that we're going to have to win?
Yeah, the first part there, Ty, I don't really follow the Vikings as, my fellow Packer mate there. You can understand that.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I like shitting on him, though, when he doesn't play good.
What's up? I'm sorry?
I said I like shitting on him when he doesn't play good, though.
Yeah, it's rude.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know about the alter ego 9 question, but the young quarterback, definitely. I think, You make a lot of excellent points, where these guys are. And I think really playing with a young quarterback, that process starts the day that they arrive, on campus, at your organization. And I think just the biggest thing, to play quarterback in this league, you obviously, everything is, about, ultimately running a game plan and going winning and stacking success each and every week with that. So when I look at developing a quarterback, and it's really, frankly, how I look at how to train a football team, you have to reverse engineering. And what I mean by reverse engineer, if you look at the games in the National Football League, and I'm sure the guys can give us stats on this as we're talking about it, but if it's 17 game season, nine, on an average, 9 of your games is going to come down to a 2-minute drill.
Okay.
And if you look at the playoff football games, over 90% of those games are going to come down to the last series. So that's the reality of winning a championship in the National Football League. So how do you train the most important position on the field with the quarterback? They have to be able to throw the ball from the pocket. And, and I could hear, Paul Hackett, my old mentor, he'd always, tell us as young coaches, that we're working with the quarterbacks, you can't be spending so much time on the run game and the protection, because these guys get paid to throw the football. At the end of the day, they got to be able to pick the ball up and go win the game at the end of the game. So the hardest thing for a young quarterback, in my opinion, is the drop back game. So, you start with the run game, and the run game today is a lot harder than it was in the 90s. I mean, these defenses today are, they're giving you so much scheme in first and second down, almost the way it was in third down in the old days. So you to run the football, it creates more work as far as, more check with me's, automatics, and things of getting out of plays. And that falls on the responsibility of the quarterback. Then you have protection adjustments. Are you a hot team, or are you protection adjustment team? I've always believed you had to be both. So there's more work too in the development of quarterback. And then the action game in the quarterback movement stuff, it's really a 1-2 run type decision. So they have to be able to do that. And every quarterback that plays in this league can do those things in his, I think in his sleep. I think that just comes into training. But the drop back part of it, I always felt that, when a guy was playing in his first year, and Aaron's really the last one I've had as a starter. And if you go back and look at these young guys, we'd always ask them and say, what are your top 7 pass concepts? And then really, buy into those, and 2 of them were usually a 3-step or some form of a 4 vertical. You had to give them a runaway, but you kept their decision making really clean. Either they're pure progressions where you just 1, 2, 3, 4 where the ball goes, or a pure progression to the field with an opportunity to throw the ball to a one-on-one match. So making it real clean, because you wanted those quarterbacks at a young age to be able to play in 7 concepts that they could just close their eyes and play. And what I've found is, throughout their whole career of working with them, those concepts are the ones you'd always lean towards in a big opportunity in the game, or if they're struggling and things like that. Because the drop back game, the timing, the footwork, and all all the work that goes into that. That's the hardest thing for young quarterbacks to have success. And then there you go.
How's this drop back, Coach? I'm gonna do Steve Young. Remember this shit? Remember when he used to do that one right there? Remember Steve Young used to do that drop back? What is the best drop back? 3-step, 5-step, 7-step? And what are we looking? Are we flipping the hips and running backwards like this while staying square? What does a good drop back look like, Coach? It's on you. You're the coach. What's a good drop back look like?
What's a good drop back look like? It's on you, Coach. Call it.
Oh, okay. Good. You mean, do I want a 3, a 5, or a 7?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did he do it? How's he start?
Well, if you're training a quarterback, you always started with the 5-step, and you talked about how you get away from center. You punch, reach. All right. So punch with your left foot, reach with your right. You lefty or righty?
Righty. I was doing Steve.
Okay. Yeah. Punch. Yeah. Punch, and then reach with your right foot, right across the midline. A little more. Open that hip up. Can you turn the foot a little bit? Keep your chin on your shoulder, looking downfield. Yeah. No, I mean, you got to look.
Oh, shit.
You get your helmet straight.
Yeah, I don't know if my helmet's going to be
okay.
He doesn't know if his helmet's going to be able to get there, Coach.
We just threw you out of the quarterback room.
No, whoa.
There you go. There you go.
Punch, reach, crossover. Here you go. Heel to toe.
Now fire that son bitch.
Big on that 4-step. Oh, yeah. There you go.
That's a good ball.
Where you go for that?
Now we got something to work with.
Yeah, we can spin a little bit. The drop back, though, is so fascinating because everybody does it differently, but it's all expected to be same. And then you hear the talk about, like, one hitch, no hitch. Hey, that ball needs to be out right now. Hey, this is a three. Like, we listened to AQ Shipley talk about it yesterday. He's like, hey, this is a five-step and out play. You need to get the hell out of there. But if you can't do a drop back, there's no timing on anything, is what you were kind of referring to. And a lot of these college, I'm not saying JJ wasn't able to. He was under center given the entire thing. But working on all this stuff is very pivotal to the timing of offenses and everything. Is that also accurate to say?
Oh, definitely. That's where all the work's at. And that's where I go back to, how much time you spend on the run game, how much time you spend on protection. You got to invest a lot of time into the footwork of the quarterback, and the thing about the old days in the off-season program, we had a thing called quarterback school. Quarterback school started like March 15th, and you get 4 weeks just working clearly with the quarterbacks before the off-season started in the middle of April. So that was the only time really the quarterback that you could really hone in, 4 days a week and hone in on all the little things that they got to do. Plus you can do the introduction to all the installs and the new wrinkles that you were wanting to put in with the offense. And so then when the rest of the team came in the middle of April, those guys already been through the installs once, but you had a whole month of working the feet. And so then you're able to go through what I would call a normal off-season program through April, May, and in the first week or two into June. So with that, and then just be a product of how you visualize how you want to train the position. So how do you do that now in this season? You got to find the moments, and I think that really most quarterbacks that I've worked with in a modern era these last 10 years and 15 years since 2011, they do a hell of a job with with their personal quarterback coaches. You have to have a relationship with those guys because you want to be on the same page. You want to when you're talking about a 5-step drop, this is how we do it in Green Bay, or this is how we do it in Dallas, and and make sure the training is all the same. I think Dak Prescott has a great support group around him as far as how he trains with his personal PT and as a quarterback coach. But it's all lined. It's all lined because there's so much that goes into that position, and if you're not putting the time and the footwork in winning in the drop back game, that's the most important time of the game. When the game is on the line, the quarterback has to drop back in the pocket, throw the ball to win. And he's got to be able to come out of the pocket and make scramble throws and win. If he's got to throw it away, most situations, that's a positive play. So, the training for all that, it's a big time commitment. And how you find time to do that in today's game is just a little bit more of a challenge than it was in the old days.
Fundamentals, baby. Win ball games. That's what it is. I'm already into punch and reach. I don't know. While you were talking there, giving your answer, I just want to let you know, quarterback school, 4 weeks of me working on this. Yeah, right, bro. I'm coming out of that thing looking like Peyton Manning, quarterback. Hey, here we go. That was kind of your guys' thing, right? You and Dak. Here we go. That was one of the greatest cadences of all time. Did you come up with that? How'd that become the
that was a group effort. We were having some things we wanted to overcome, and the communication in the room was, the linemen felt that they needed a little bigger indicator, and that's what we came up with. So
how big do you need? Do you need 3 words to let you guys? Here we go. Hey, it's coming. About to snap it. That's awesome.
It's the best.
Coach, you're the man. We appreciate you so much for joining us every single week. Sorry you lost connection there in the middle of it all.